quitting weed isn't as complicated as it may seem, but it's also not as easy as most people think. Now, I smoked for over 10 years in my life, and just over a year ago is really when I stopped, and I haven't looked back since. I do contemplate certain things and get the cravings like most people do because my degen brain just loves that feeling of a rush or a high. But obviously, I'm trying to better myself and do something with my life, so that's exactly where I'm taking it. Now, for a long time, I didn't even realize that I had a problem. I started smoking when I was about 14 or 15 years old, of course, after some stupid high school breakup that probably wasn't even a real relationship to begin with. But, of course, my friends wanted to be there for me and suggested that I hang out with them for the weekend and we go get some green and try to better myself or better my feelings, whatever I was trying to emotionally standardize at the time, with, of course, the devil's lettuce. Now, my first time using it on that weekend of actually getting high for my first ever experience was probably similar to most people's experience with this sort of stuff, and I was going into it unexpectedly, not realizing how strong it was going to be, even though to today's standard, it's way more potent than what it was, especially since it's lab tested, it's grown in a lab, some of these things, and they're literally trying to make it as strong as it possibly can be. But it was still strong to my virgin body of using drugs like weed, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I remember being at my friend's grandma's house for the first time, not understanding how we were going to use it because of course we didn't have like a big rig or bong or any way of rolling because we were kids at the time. I don't condone using it as a kid especially, but things happened. But we ended up smoking it out of like a Gatorade bottle, just jerry rigged to all get up so that we could consume this sort of drug any way possible, like some fiends that we were as kids. And there's no doubt in my mind that we didn't consume something that probably got us higher than the weed did, because we used things like electrical tape to hold like a nut down. There was probably metal shavings coming off or burning from it, and I guarantee there was nothing good coming out of that bowl that we created on a poolside table. But at the time, it got the job done. And I remember sitting there waiting for my friend to help make me some food because I couldn't do it myself. We were so toasted at the time. And he made a Hot Pocket, probably nuked that thing for 10 minutes to cook it up for whatever reason. He didn't think that it was going to be warm enough for me. Bro hands it to me, literally tells me, be careful, it's hot. I remember immediately putting that spoon in my mouth and screaming at the top of my lungs that it was hot, and everybody just started cackling at me. Well, fast forward a few years and everybody's drinking, everybody's partying and smoking weed now, and it's just kind of the normal thing. If you're going out for the weekend at some high school party or college party, everybody's using it. It's not some sort of like, I don't know, this special thing that it's rare to see. It was almost everywhere that you went. It became a social norm. And that's a problem that my addictive personality really wanted to build off of. I literally made it my lifestyle. Years later after that, I started really building it into that. I started working in the industry, from grows to technicians to being a salesman, for still to this day that I'm slowly working myself out of. But I really did build a lifestyle based off of this plan. But that's where things really started to go wrong. I was building my lifestyle out of something that was unhealthy and not reasonable for a solid future or a foundation for one at least. And I quit for a lot of reasons. But I'm not going to go into a whole spiel about that. You can just check out my other video as to why I was really quitting. This is more so on how you can quit and how I quit myself. I wasn't necessarily choosing when to smoke after all. It ended up being where smoking was choosing me. And when I was getting high to put things off and not do what I needed to take care of, That added up so much over time that it set me back years worth of my life. At some point, I realized I wasn't using it, I was depending on it. And building that dependency was creating a funnel for my life and creating a very slim, narrow way of going about any sort of choice that I had in the future. The first thing that I had to really do to quit was be honest with myself. Not an I can quit whenever mentality, but actually admitting this is holding me back and I need to quit. I had made so many stupid choices for weed that I will never be able to get back, from turning down jobs, losing friendships, and even making dumb mistakes that I can never take back because of it. But that was something that I had to understand and realize and move past. Quitting wasn't necessarily easy either. There was brain fog, constantly not being able to remember shit, cravings, like always wanting to smoke or pop a few eddies and just feel stupid for the rest of the day, and of course feeling off and uncomfortable or even building anxiety over time because I had a dependency and I didn't have that choice of coping or facing it off of a high. But nobody really wants to talk about that. That's just sort of a narrative that people understand as they go through it, and I had to. And one of the biggest things that really helped me stop was replacing it with something good. Not just another drug, not force feeding myself to not remember it, or even smoking anything else. Keep the spoon cold, brothers. But instead of just removing it, I started drinking water anytime I had a craving for it. And at this time, whenever I quit, I was quitting nicotine too. It wasn't even necessarily a cold turkey quit. I replaced it with things that were positive for me, like building a dopamine hit off of, instead of smoking on that stupid Geek Bar or Elf Bar, that horrible, horrible thing, I started drinking water or flavored water, or even a Gatorade Zero to kind of at least get that mouth fixation, pause, to get the flavor going at least in my mouth, so I'd understood that, I'm not relying on some cotton candy breathalyzing thing, smoke plunge, but I'm still getting that taste, that dopamine hit, that I'm passing through something that is better for me than, inhaling smoke or inhaling weed or vape, whatever it be, for the better. Long story short, I had to fill that time with something else, like drinking water, like working out, doing anything that made me feel productive instead of getting high or instead of smoking on a vape. Believe me, there were days I didn't feel like sticking with it, but that's where discipline came in, not motivation, not waiting to feel for anything to be ready, but just sticking to the decision that I had made. I'm quitting, and nothing is going to stop that. I didn't let any peer pressure stop me, any anxiety, depression, or chaotic events get in the way of my decision that I had made. I understand why people turn back on it too. It's crazy being out in the world. Things are constantly happening. It's stressful. There's so many possibilities that could lead to literally any sort of thing happening that is going to set off your day and make you just crave it, like thinking like, holy crap, if I don't do this, I'm going to die. Dependency. And that is a terrible way of going about it, but it truly is how it seems for most people, and even myself when it came to quitting or just not having it, turning into that fiend that just couldn't stop thinking about it. Just for the knowing of me using it would just lead to me being a nasty chud, clearing out an entire refrigerator, just sickening myself to my stomach to go to bed, wake up, and do it the next day again. And that's also when I realized this wasn't just about quitting weed. It was about taking control of my life, my habits, my time, everything that I have. And if you're going through this right now, or even thinking about quitting, or know someone that is, just ask yourself or them, is it actually helping you move forward, or is it something that's holding you back? Of course, it's not going to be something simple. I had to deal with detachment issues, the foggy mind, and the craving too. But that's with any sort of habit that you're trying to build out of. anything good or bad. Originally, it's not going to seem like it's normal or it's going to feel out of place, but eventually it starts forming itself into your habits and into your lifestyle, naturally. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do, but I will say this. Quitting weed was one of the best decisions I've made in my entire life. And I'm not going to sit here and knock anybody for actually using it. I've talked about it several times with different friends, family, and even strangers that have questions for me whenever they're going into the dispensary that I work at. I have tons of info on this sort of thing, and I like to help people out when it comes to the industry because of my knowledge and because of my background. But I'm not going to sit here and also lie straight to the face of some stoners or someone that is actually using it for a medicinal benefit that,
oh yeah, I use it too, and I'm so cool with this, and like,
bro, I'm not that type of person. I'm also not going to sit here and say that it's not addictive. That's one of the biggest problems with the industry is they don't push out how this stuff is addictive and how it can be led to a dependency on a drug, because that is what it is, and not at least putting it out in front of people and saying, hey, this might be something that you could rely on in the future if you don't use it responsibly. We always grew up with like the dare and all that stuff. I don't know if everyone had that or not, but it was always like stay off of drugs, don't go to parties, don't fall under peer pressure. And yeah, those things are good to like keep in notation, but it's also great to have some experience too. For some people that's bad, some people that's even worse. But for me, I feel like it was something that I kind of did to myself. You know, I led myself into this hole and I need to dig myself out. And some would even say that this is kind of like a build of character, and I can completely understand that too. Plenty of people experience so many ups and downs throughout their lifetime that they constantly are learning from, or at least building an experienced background off of, so they know what choices and what decisions or ways to think about certain things in the future. And I entirely believe that's exactly what was in place for me, at least for my experience when it comes to relying and depending on this sort of cope and this drug for 10 plus years to being completely off of it and building a lifestyle for myself for the future. I believe it taught me plenty of things in life about not having to rely on something that isn't necessarily good for you, but also being capable of creating experiences that I can look back on and tell stories off of those experiences about people, and creating a safe desire of wanting more and wanting best. And those are real things that I've experienced that I can never change or take away from my life, and no one else can. But I can look back on as complacent examples as to why I'm making these decisions and why I believe I'm making something better for myself. And the number one way you're going to be able to quit is exactly that, being real with yourself. If you don't believe it's best for you, or you just don't want to out of either ignorance, or if you want to consider it bliss even though it probably isn't, then beats me and hell to me. Because do what you want. If you're happy, that's the best thing you can do for yourself, is make yourself happy. And that's the main reason why I'm even making these videos too, is to keep track as to how I'm disciplining myself and building off of something that is actually making me happy. And weed wasn't one of those things. It was keeping me lazy and made me feel trapped. But after making the solid decision of quitting weed, quitting nicotine, and creating a better lifestyle for myself, I'm not looking back. I only have plans for the future. I plan on uploading on this channel for at least weekly for as long as I possibly can. There's not a set time frame, but I really do appreciate all of the support that I've been getting provided from you guys, and I really hope that you have created some sort of closure or found some help in my stories or in my experiences that you can have some relatability to yourselves. And if you do have any stories of your own, or questions, considerations, or maybe you just want to hear more about my story, let me know down below. And if you had a similar experience with quitting or a first time experience and you feel, happy enough to leave that in the comments, go ahead. I read every single one of them. I love to hear everything you guys have to say, and I appreciate all the support you've been providing to this brand new channel for me. If you do, go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I would love to see you guys in the future.